Good afternoon and welcome to Community Focus at JJY. I'm Ken Thomas, and my guest today is Tom Nixon. Tom is the Regional Coordinator for Towards Zero Deaths. Tom, welcome back to Community Focus.
Good afternoon, Ken. Thanks for having me in.
Yeah. For our listeners that don't know about Community Focus, please just remind us what TZD is all about.
Yeah, TZD is a comprehensive traffic safety program, and what we would like to get people to remember is if you hear TZD, if you think about what it's trying to get to you, is that you're focusing on getting to your destination safely. We use education, enforcement, engineering, and emergency medical trauma services as our basic 4 E's, our 4 cornerstones to addressing that traffic safety need. We look at when crashes occur, what happens, and we try to figure out how to prevent them from happening again. The partnership also adds a 5th E, which is everyone, because we all have that role in preventing crashes from happening, as they are a preventable incident, preventable death.
Yes, absolutely. You and I were talking before we started here, but the numbers continue to, well, let's just say they're not good. And this trend started last year during the pandemic, and it continues this year. And there's a lot of people scratching their heads as to why. But the bottom line is we need to turn those numbers around again.
You're correct. The tragedies just keep ticking up. Right now, as of today, our preliminary crashes are 292 on our roads compared to 234 last year. And in comparison to years previous, last year we put an asterisk next to that year because, it was COVID and there was fewer travelers, and we thought that the fewer vehicles on the roads created higher speed opportunities. But if we go back 5 and 10 years, we're kind of undoing the progress at this point, where vehicles are overrepresented in areas that we haven't had issues for a long time, in crashes that are both serious injury and fatal. And what we're hoping to do is to get people's attention to say that this is something you can change. This is all within your abilities, and those tragedies are preventable. They do not need to happen. And so when we look at those numbers and we look at the trend, we're not encouraged to think people are listening, and we're hoping with all of the extra ads that you had mentioned that we're going to see and hear, people will change behavior and adhere to the infrastructure's needs, the speed limits, the engineering needs of the vehicle. If you wear your seatbelt, you're safer in that rollover or that incident because your airbags are positioning you, and all of those things contribute to a safer system.
Yeah. Speed, and you mentioned that. I know we continue to hear about people just traveling too fast on the roadways.
It is a concern. And when we look at how our system is designed, if you think about speed and what it does, it's not only your traveling speed for where you're at, the geometry of the road or the way that it's shaped is the curves are made to take a certain amount of angle, and you can navigate those curves with certain amount of control at a certain speed, but over that you start to lose that ability. And cars are only designed to go a certain speed, and their impact or their collision systems are only designed for a certain amount of speed. But additionally, if you go to pull out from a side street and you're looking at an oncoming vehicle, we call that gap spacing. It's very difficult to judge that speed to you anyway. And larger vehicles look like they're going slower, and smaller vehicles look like they're going faster. In reality, it's hard to judge anyway, but when people are not going the posted speed where we anticipate, that's where collisions occur, and that's where you lose that right-of-way as well. If you're going exceeding the speed and someone pulls out in front of you, you weren't going what they anticipated or guessed you should be, and now you put both of you at risk, and now you're the result of your decision-making for speeding for the crash.
Yeah, and reaction times at higher speeds become so critical. I mean, and you can't react fast enough when you're going too fast.
That's exactly it. And I think that there's a lot of negative reinforcement for this, that we can get away with bad behavior frequently. There is only so many times you can be caught on the road because there's only so many law enforcement or so many people willing to call 911. But you don't know when someone's going to come out from the side street, or the dog's going to run out, or your tire's going to fail, or mechanically something happens. And when those moments occur, that's the difference between, oh, wow, that was close, and bad news.
Yeah. Tom, we're coming up on another one of the very, very busy weekends on the roadway as we come closer to Labor Day weekend. And so another one of those weekends in Minnesota that can be very deadly and don't have to be if we just, again, slow down, pay attention, drive sober.
You're right. We're coming in on the bookend of summer, and if people are planning on having a good time, and boy, we don't discourage a good time, go for it. Just make a plan. And at this point, you have all the time to do so. There are resources here in the Lakes area that can help with that, along with if you just looked a little deeper into your friend list, I'm sure someone would sign up for you buy them some appetizers and some beverages of non-alcoholic nature this year, and you'll get a ride home, and they'll be happy that they were able to be that friend to you.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, as we head for Labor Day, it's the start of the school year again. And, oh, boy, there's going to be these very large orange vehicles on the road again, and that opens up another problem that we've had over the last few years. And people seem to forget that you have to watch the flashing lights and the stop arms.
If you're a traveler regularly in those morning hours between 6:30 and 8:30, or in the afternoon between 3 and 5, and little before and after in some distant places from the cities here, that is, you should be prepared to stop. You should be looking for those youngsters that are waiting out by the roadway. They're just looking to go to school, and the school bus has all of its distractions for the kids. Those bus drivers, thank you. Thank you, bus drivers, for all of your effort and your time for transporting our kids so safely. Yeah. One of the safest means of transportation in the world is on a school bus. So when we have young drivers, young teen drivers, we really encourage them to, use their skills to their best. But moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, guardians, please consider saying, you know what, today you were tired last night. You had a late night. You had a late activity. Why don't you take the bus? Oh, well, we know it's safe. Yeah. We know they're going to get there. That egg carton style seating and everything that works. We just have too much good data to say school buses are going to be safe for them. But when they're waiting on the side of the road to get on, or they're crossing, you have to pay attention, folks. And really, as you're driving in those times of the day, the morning and the afternoon, be prepared for that unexpected stop. And you're not used to it because you've not been out of that habit now for about 3 months or more. And you may come over the hill and there's a new bus stop. So be watching for those flashing night lights, and just you're better off to stop and go slow, and they'll wave you on if it's okay for you to proceed. But caution. It's just not worth it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know there's been an issue with people going through those stop arms over the last few years. I know that there's been increased fines for that behavior, but people just need to not do it because, like you say, there are children present. There's a reason that stop arm is out.
It's just not worth it. And when we look at the fine is the least of the concerns of those people. Being involved in those crashes, going to those crashes, and the people that were at fault, even if it was intentional to speed or do what they were doing, they had never intended to have that happen. But they disregarded. They thought it was fine, or they were thinking what they were doing was more important. Too many videos of cars that go, passing on the right because they didn't want to rear end. There's not a good answer to that. The best answer is that you drive according to the conditions and you're paying attention. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to pre-warn you for, or get ahead of, is that you pay attention to those big yellow buses. You look for those flashing lights, and you adhere to that stop. That stop sign that stands out is with all the authority that any stop sign can be, and this is one that really has something important behind it. So we just want everyone's awareness on high alert for those.
Yeah. You alluded to the fact that we'll see a lot of young drivers again back on the road, school time, as we head back to school. And again, we talk about distracted driving. That continues to be an issue on the road. And I hate to even single out young people because I see people of every age doing it. But those phones need to be put away, don't they?
They do. And for those that are new to having a younger driver, 18 and under, there's a graduated driver's license laws. They were specifically developed so that the guardians, the parents, the grandparents, the friends can have some tools to help. What we've learned were risk factors that increased risk in teen drivers, the number of youth passengers, the hours that they're driving, and the use of that phone. Under 18, no phones in the hand. You just can't do it. Emergencies aside, the calling 911 or something of that sort, we would still encourage them to pull over and do that. But that's the only exception. So you really just need to help them understand that they need to be home by the hours of the time in their graduated driver's license laws and the number of passengers they need to have, because it is high risk. When we look at the statistics from a 15-year-old with an adult in the vehicle helping them drive, there's very few crashes. And then there's a stark change at 16 and 17 where they go up dramatically. And when we ask the teens about that, what happened, there's a lot of reasoning, but they don't want to come up with the fact it's, there's an experienced driver there yelling or saying stop or slow down or whoa, because they get distracted. They are not familiar with all of what you are. And when we look at older drivers versus younger drivers, both a risky category at times. We would pick older drivers to be safer because they have that experience. Yeah. That's nothing against the youth. It's just the fact that they haven't been in as many situations as you drivers are. So take advantage of that driving time for those permitted drivers. And as we go back into school when they're tired and they're changing their behavior and their times, just like daylight savings, we see crashes go up. And this is where you can help reinforce before they get involved with law enforcement.
Yeah. And you just mentioned something else as we head for fall. Lower light conditions earlier, that's a factor as well for crashes. There's a lot of things that can affect a driver and paying attention.
Boy, I kind of feel like Piglet here. The sky's falling. All these bad things are coming, and fall is a wonderful time of year. And most people do things right. I want to make sure I don't single out everybody as the problem. It's very few people that are in the crash system. 365 or so a year die on our roads, and when we look at how many people are at fault and when things occur, more people are doing things the way they should be. More people are doing what they're supposed to. But when we look at those later fall days and we see those beautiful evenings, we can go out for a walk in the low light conditions. We need to pay attention as drivers. We're encouraging those walkers to be crossing where they should cross and being in reflective clothing or in brighter colored clothing. We're asking them to be more predictable in how they behave on the road. We're also asking you as drivers to watch for them and to be prepared. Farming, we get into the farm season here too. It's not as heavy in our lakes area here, but there are areas. It's all about just that awareness on the road and really focus on your drive. If there's anything we can say every time is the best thing, is just try to get your distractions out of the way and focus on getting to your destination with paying attention to your surroundings.
Yeah, and paying attention to what you're doing. Like you say, one of the most dangerous things you can do every day is drive the car when you don't pay attention and observe the speed limits and these things that we've been talking about.
You're absolutely right. And yet most people do it. Most people that are driving are doing what they should do. But we have those little lapses in judgment where we get lost in thought and we don't redirect ourselves. We keep thinking about it when we're like, oh, boy, how did I get here? Oh, I must have been thinking about something else. It's natural. It's very hard. But driving tired is a danger, and driving stressed. You just got mad and you tear off from the parking lot. That's excessive acceleration, and you put other people at risk by the way that you drive. It's what most people would say. Oh well, that wasn't a big deal. Sometimes, most of the time, maybe it isn't. But we don't know when it is or it isn't going to be. And that time where it isn't is where bad things can happen. It's where we don't see it coming and we make that mistake. And so trying to program ourselves to be predictable in how we act and what we prepare ourselves for on that road is all about this conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that we may have overlooked here as we head for the start of the school year and the beginning of fall and Labor Day weekend?
I think just an appeal to drivers every time we get the chance to talk about this is just plan your time ahead, whether that's you're going to go out for Labor Day weekend, whether it's going into the fall and it's we start getting frost on the windshields and you plan a little bit early, or it's I'm going to be heading out and start of school the day after Labor Day here. I maybe need to give myself 15 extra minutes this morning because those school buses are just getting those kids figured out for when they can get on, and planning ahead seems to always provide a better outcome.
I think so too. Tom, thank you so much for being here today to talk about traffic safety. We truly appreciate it, and we hope everyone will take to heart that it's your personal responsibility to maintain that safety on the roadways.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Tom Nixon is the Regional Coordinator for Towards Zero Deaths, and he is our guest today on Community Focus. I'm Ken Thomas, and we remind you that our Community Focus programs can be heard anytime. Find them on our website. Go to 1067wjjy.com. You can also find them on our mobile app that's powered by Cuyuna Regional Medical Center.